Right here, that's Raven Johnson right there, takes a step back, blatantly takes a step back. No confusion, that's Raven Johnson. This arm is Caitlin Clark. Watch her come out. Raven Johnson's going to take a step away. No high five with Caitlin Clark.
That's Raven Johnson, number 10 overall pick in the 2025 WNBA draft. And that right there is her deliberately stepping away from Caitlin Clark during the high five line at the Indiana Fever's first training camp practice. Not a missed connection, not an accident. A conscious decision to avoid physical contact with the franchise player on day one of the season. We didn't even make it 24 hours into training camp before the Fever created their first controversy of 2025. And here's what makes this particularly damning. This isn't some external drama. This isn't media speculation or fan overreaction. This is internal team dysfunction playing out on camera for the entire basketball world to see.
Talking about it. Caitlin Clark, on being ready to play, she is ready to go. She wants to play, she doesn't want to sit.
Game since kind of going through that whole not playing, she wanted to get back to the court.
Yeah, well, I was talking to Steph a little bit, and I'm the person that doesn't want to sit out a single rep. Like, I want to be in there every single time. Like, I just love competing and I love playing, and none of that has changed, but I think just like being a little bit smarter with my body and understanding what it takes. And I think especially like through camp days, like these days are really long. Like you're on the court 2.5, 3 hours and putting in a lot of stuff. So, you know, taking care of my body at this point in the season is probably the most important thing.
Listen to those words carefully. I've never really sat on the sidelines before, so it was a very humbling experience. That's Caitlin Clark talking about being benched during practices. The biggest star in women's basketball history, the player who single-handedly doubled WNBA viewership last season, is describing sitting on the bench as a humbling experience. Let's put this in perspective. Clark averaged 19.2 points and 8.4 assists as a rookie. She set the WNBA single-season assist record with 337. She brought 3.2 million viewers to the league's most watched game in 23 years. And now she's being humbled by sitting out practice reps in her second season while her coach talks about managing minutes like she's a 35-year-old veteran with chronic injuries. This isn't player development. This is ideology masquerading as coaching philosophy.
White.
It's been across the league, and to be able to finally get on the floor, it's an exciting time.
So what was that message when you met a couple nights ago about probably looking back to last year and bringing it forward?
Yeah, I think the message was...
Wait. What is the deal with the continuous nose sniffing? Are we still suspecting that? Okay.
Be able to finally get on the floor, it's an exciting time.
So what was that message when you met a couple nights ago about probably looking back to last year and bringing it forward?
Yeah, I think the message was just we've taken another step. We have to understand what it takes on a daily basis. You know, we're going to continue to put the we over the me. We're going to continue to prioritize the locker room and the chemistry.
There it is. We're going to continue to put the we over the me. That phrase right there tells you everything you need to know about how Stephanie White views this roster. She genuinely believes that treating Caitlin Clark like a superstar would somehow damage team chemistry. She's convinced that the way to build a championship contender is to minimize the one generational talent on the roster rather than maximize her. And notice the sniffing. Multiple times during media availability, White exhibited that same physical tic, a tell that shows up when she's discussing topics she's defensive about. She knows the Raven Johnson pick was controversial. She knows fans questioned it immediately. She knows drafting Dawn Staley's point guard at number 10 when you already have the best point guard in the league made zero basketball sense. But here's what she's not acknowledging. That decision has now created a situation where her 10th overall pick is publicly avoiding contact with her franchise player on the first day of camp.
Stephanie White on using injuries as an excuse for everything.
Caitlin mentioned that she's 100% healthy, no restrictions, but how do you, I guess, help prepare, or maybe do you change anything about this preparation going into the longest season in WWE history?
I think the biggest thing is just making sure that we're mindful of you know, this is day one. She doesn't have to be out there every rep.
just being mindful of reps. I think every year that she gets older too, she understands, the cadence is a little bit different. It's not like she has any to go out there and go through everything. I think with her, with Kelsey, with AB, with all of them, just be mindful of getting them in and out. And we need to get other people integrated anyway, so I think it'll give us a good opportunity.
She doesn't have to be out there every rep. That's Stephanie White explaining why Caitlin Clark, who is 23 years old and completely healthy, needs to be pulled from practice drills. Not because of injury, not because of fatigue, because White has decided that getting other people integrated is more important than maximizing reps for the player who creates the entire offensive system. This is the same coach who, just moments earlier, said there's no superstar on this team. The same coach who keeps emphasizing we over me like it's some profound coaching insight rather than a tired cliche. And now she's justifying reduced practice time for a player entering her second season, typically when young stars make their biggest developmental leaps. Compare this to how the NBA treats young superstars. When Luka Doncic was in his second season, the Mavericks built everything around him. When Ja Morant entered year 2, Memphis handed him the keys completely. The league's best organizations understand that when you have a generational talent, you don't humble them, you elevate them and build around them.
Fish. No, I mean, when there was Michael Jordan, there was Michael Jordan. I don't know what else to tell you. I don't believe that Stephanie White knows how to properly use a dynamic superstar. There it is. It's out in the open. I don't think she knows how to elevate and build the team and the system around the player. That's how that's supposed to work, is to build the team around the player. Not force the player into some predisposed system that you have.
This is where the ideology becomes crystal clear. Stephanie White came into the league in a different era, an era that prided itself on toughness, on paying dues, on the idea that star players needed to be kept in check. That mentality worked when the WNBA was fighting for survival and couldn't afford prima donnas. But this isn't 2000 anymore. The league is at an inflection point. Viewership exploded last season specifically because of Caitlin Clark. The Fever went from playing in front of 4,000 fans to selling out arenas everywhere they traveled. Merchandise sales quadrupled. National media coverage increased exponentially. And all of that happened because one player transcended the sport. But White represents the old guard, the faction within the WNBA that resents how Clark's popularity happened. They wanted the league to grow organically through team play and collective excellence. They didn't want one white player from Iowa to become the face of a league they'd spent decades building. So now you've got a coach whose entire philosophy is built around minimizing individual stardom. And she's been handed the biggest individual star in women's basketball history. The cognitive dissonance is staggering.
Let's start with the drama of Raven Clark deciding she's not going to high-five Caitlin Clark. And this is exactly what the Indiana Fever have brought on this season. The fact is, if you do not draft this person, I'm not making this video right now. We're not talking about this. But the fact is, all eyes are going to be on both of these players. And the Indiana Fever have nobody to blame but themselves, not the fans. Not the unhappy fans that warned you the very second that you announced your pick at number 10, you're inviting drama. You're inviting controversy. Here we are.
Look at that footage again. Raven Johnson takes a full step backward. She drops her head. She deliberately creates distance between herself and Clark. This isn't ambiguous. This isn't open to interpretation. And yet within hours of this clip circulating, social media erupted with accusations that Clark was the one being disrespectful, that she was acting racist by not acknowledging Johnson. That's the environment the Fever have created by drafting Johnson in the first place. They took a player whose college coach, Don Staley, had spent months making thinly veiled criticisms of Clark. They brought in someone from a program whose fan base had been openly hostile to Clark throughout her college career. And they did it knowing that every interaction between these two players would be scrutinized, analyzed, and weaponized by different factions of the fan base. This front office had one job: create an environment where Caitlin Clark could thrive. Instead, they've constructed a powder keg. They've hired a coach who doesn't believe in building around superstars. They've drafted a player whose presence guarantees controversy. And they've set up a dynamic where their franchise player is being humbled while her backup is publicly avoiding her.
Which resulted in both of them not high-fiving each other. Now, people are running with a completely false narrative. This front office is the worst imaginable. Here we are. Here we are. And if you want to criticize me making this video because you don't, I didn't draft Raven Johnson. I didn't put Raven Johnson on this team. I didn't cause her to step back away from Caitlin Clark. I didn't do any of that. I know what I just witnessed with my own eyes and what you just saw. I don't think there's any confusion there.
The body language in that clip is devastating. You can see it in Clark's face. She knows exactly what just happened. She recognizes the slight, but watch what she does. She doesn't react. She doesn't make a scene. She keeps moving down the line like nothing happened. That's the professionalism she's maintained since entering this league, despite facing more hostility than any rookie in WNBA history. Remember the Carter incident last season when she got body checked to the ground and league veterans defended the hit? Remember the dark side comment where media members characterized her fan base as racist? Remember watching her get hammered game after game while officials swallowed their whistles? She absorbed all of it without complaint, without demanding trades, without creating drama. And this is how the Fever reward that professionalism by bringing in a coach who wants to humble her and a teammate who won't even high-five her on day one.
Different than the Stephanie White now. Just saying. Just pointing that out. The agenda. And I don't think Stephanie White likes Caitlin Clark. I believe she absolutely hates the Caitlin Clark fandom. I don't know how else to take it. I really don't. And they need to understand as an organization, you're already seeing some fans vote with their pocketbooks. That's already happening. This organization better pay attention. They better pay attention. I can tell by the views on my videos. People are fired up and not in a good way right now. Tell me what you think. Peace. I'm out.
Here's what makes this situation particularly damaging for the Fever organization. They're already seeing the consequences in real time. Ticket sales for the 2025 season aren't matching last year's pace. Merchandise orders have plateaued. The initial surge of enthusiasm that Clark brought to Indiana is cooling because fans can see exactly what's happening here. This isn't about basketball anymore. This is about organizational philosophy. The Pacers ownership group that controls the Fever has a choice to make. Do they want to build a championship contender around a generational talent, or do they want to appease the old guard WNBA establishment that resents how Clark's popularity disrupted their narrative about the league's growth? Because right now they're trying to do both. They're trying to market Clark as the face of the franchise, while simultaneously allowing their coach to treat her like just another player who needs to be humbled. They're trying to capitalize on her popularity, while drafting players whose presence creates immediate internal tension. They're trying to sell tickets based on her stardom while implementing a system that deliberately minimizes individual excellence. That contradiction is unsustainable. Something has to give, and if the Fever aren't careful, what gives will be Caitlin Clark's patience. She's eligible for free agency after the 2026 season. That's 18 months away. 18 months of being told there's no superstar on this team. 18 months of sitting out practice reps so other players can get integrated. 18 months of navigating awkward dynamics with teammates who don't want to acknowledge her. You think she's going to re-sign under those conditions? You think she's going to commit long-term to an organization that spent her entire rookie contract trying to minimize her rather than maximize her? The Lakers built around Magic Johnson. The Bulls built around Michael Jordan. The Warriors built around Stephen Curry. Championship organizations understand that when you have transcendent talent, you don't humble them, you empower them and construct everything else around their strengths. But Stephanie White doesn't believe in that model. She believes in we over me. She believes in making sure no one player gets too much attention. She believes that the way to win is through collective effort and shared sacrifice. And those beliefs might work with a roster full of solid role players. But when you have Caitlin Clark, those beliefs become organizational malpractice. Watch what happens over the next few months. Watch how the local Indiana media starts asking harder questions about playing time and shot distribution. Watch how national analysts begin questioning whether the Fever are wasting Clark's prime years. Watch how fans start demanding accountability from a front office that promised championship contention but delivered ideological stubbornness instead. And watch Raven Johnson, because that high-five incident isn't going away. Every time she's on the court with Clark, people will be analyzing their interactions. Every time there's a turnover or a miscommunication, fans will question whether the chemistry issues stem from that day one tension. The Fever created this dynamic by making that draft pick, and now they have to live with the consequences. Stephanie White can talk all she wants about we over me and team chemistry and collective effort. But at the end of the day, the WNBA is a star-driven league. Viewership follows stars. Merchandise sales follow stars. Championship banners follow stars. And the Fever have the biggest star in women's basketball sitting on their roster right now, being told she needs to be humbled. That's not a development strategy. That's organizational sabotage. And if they don't course correct soon, they're going to wake up in 2027 watching Caitlin Clark dominate in a different uniform while Raven Johnson runs Stephanie White's egalitarian offense to a 20-win season in Indianapolis. The question isn't whether this situation is sustainable. It's not. The question is how long it takes before something breaks. My prediction? We'll see a significant development before the All-Star break. Either White adjusts her philosophy, or the front office adjusts their coaching staff, or Clark starts making it very clear through her play and her media availability that this isn't working. Because what we witnessed on day one of training camp wasn't just an awkward high-five moment. It was a symptom of a much deeper organizational dysfunction, and you can't build a championship contender on that foundation. So here's my question for you. If you're the Pacers ownership group watching this unfold, what's your move? Do you back your coach and risk alienating your franchise player? Do you trade Raven Johnson and admit the pick was a mistake? Or do you just hope this all blows over and pray that winning solves everything? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you think I'm overreacting to one missed high five, ask yourself this: why did Raven Johnson step back in the first place? What message was she sending on day one of camp? Because players don't accidentally avoid their teammates during introductions. That was intentional, and intention reveals everything. Hit that subscribe button if you want more honest WNBA analysis without the corporate spin, because this league has never needed honest commentary more than it does right now.